Okay, so what is your name? What grade and content level did you teach? And how many years have you been teaching?
My name is Kathy Turcott. I am a retired educator retired from the public schools educator. I taught for a combination of 31 years, 15 of them in special ed, 4 of them as an LDTC, and the others as a gen ed teacher.
That's great. As a teacher, can you describe your PLN?
Okay, so most recently, my last job before I retired from the public schools was part of Child Study Team. I was a learning consultant. So my learning network there is, I'd say, twofold. One, I'm supposed to talk to you or her. One, my peer group, as in the other Child Study Team members, the psychologist, the social worker that I worked with. My district had an elementary and a high school child study team. So if it was a learning disability specific, those questions generally were asked of either our child study team director, because she was also an LD, or the other LD in the district. Most often, anything that we were doing, any good workshops that we saw, came through our child study team to us. If we wanted to go to something, if someone saw something, it was passed on to us that they thought was good. The district wasn't far from Rowan, so a lot of times we were sent there for different things. And then the other part of it would be the cohort that I went to grad school with, because they are all practicing LDs. So a lot of times we see information that we think might be helpful to someone else, depending on whether they're a high school person or an elementary person. So we would pass that information on. And by that I mean things like New Jersey has a New Jersey Association of Learning Consultants, statewide. It's learning consultants from all over the state. They hold area workshops twice a year, and then they hold an annual conference that's workshop based and learning based, and just information every spring. So they're a great reference as far as my personal learning network, because I would go to them. Like an example would be,
Well, I haven't got to that question yet.
okay.
So now that good, very informative. So how has your PLN supported your teaching? Which you're
Okay.
about to answer.
So this is what you can edit that. My personal learning network supports me as an LD, because my favorite phrase is no two snowflakes are alike. No two students are the same. You could have 2 students with the same diagnosis of a disability, but they're not the same person. They have different needs. So when there's a question, when you need to know something, when you want to figure something out, you need somebody to run it by. The people that support you are mostly the people in your inner circle, which would be your peers within the child study team. Our director would pass on information to us as a group. So as far as our learning, there's almost like a constant flow of information coming at us. As far as me as an individual, as the learning consultant, I would say the New Jersey Association of Learning Consultants, or the cohort group that I went to grad school with. We have a closed Facebook page so we can support each other. So they're my personal network. It's my personal network of LDs that graduated from Stockton with me, and then it's the larger circle of the New Jersey Learning Consultants. They're really great because they have workshops, like when the Woodcock-Johnson came out with the oral language assessment, and that was new a few years ago, they offered training on that. That's something that you'd have to get through Harcourt Brace or whoever makes the Woodcock. It's not something easily accessible. So it was great that they offered that training so you could go there and learn more that way. Does that answer that?
Yes, that answers that question. Now for the last question I have for you. what advice and recommendations would you give to a new teacher that's entering the teaching profession on what they should include in their PLN?
I would say, well, a lot of districts have mandatory learning that has to be done. That's just part of your ongoing hours that have to be completed every year. So that's the first part, that whatever is sent to you through your own district, you have to complete. That completes your hours. If you want to go beyond your own hours, if you have a cohort that you went to school with, like in your major, if you were part of, like, say the psychology club, I'll use them as an example. So the psychology club, you make some friends. They may be ahead of you in school, they may be behind you in school, but they're part of your social network. So you keep in touch with those people even after you graduate, because they could be helpful for other things, and they can also be helpful for other ongoing learning, because it doesn't stop once you're out of school.
Would you include social media as part of that?
Well, sure, because we have,
Of people you don't personally know, but you might follow on certain social media accounts?
sure, especially if it's somebody like on LinkedIn, that there are a few sites that there's one that's a BCAB, behavior analysis site, that I follow, just because as a learning consultant, every once in a while I get the student in with the challenging behaviors that I have to evaluate, and it's kind of like, is there something in that I've gotten from reading with that I can pull out of the back of my head and apply to this particular student to get through their assessment period. So I don't personally know that person. I've never sat in a presentation from them. There are others that have done presentations at our district that can be followed on social media, just like our LDTC group is a closed Facebook group, but we can communicate with each other. We can offer each other resources. So absolutely include social media.
Especially since it's so prevalent in young teachers.
Well, it's prevalent for everybody. It doesn't have to be young or old. It could be anybody.
Well,
'Cause
yeah, but for like
if you're coming out of school,
like at our age.
so as entering, I would think that your personal network is people that you've networked with when you were in school. If you go to presentations, if you're sent someplace by your district, you can always follow. Generally, they have Facebook, Instagram, something that you can follow them on to find out more information about them. Sometimes it's their LinkedIn account. It just depends on who they are. And it's always a great idea to continue following them, because there are people that I met that did workshops when I was 10 years back in my career, that they came to the district where I was a special ed teacher. Did a presentation. I thought it was really interesting. Fast forward 12 years later, I ran into him as a behavior consultant for one of my students on my caseload as the LD that was in an out-of-district placement, and he was working with that student. It really helped to have that background and know who he is and what he does. And he had a lot of great ideas of things that you can do with the kids. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, because you can't physically see or talk to everybody, and there's people that you wouldn't have time to try to talk to. But if you can connect with them through social media, whatever social media means you want to use, absolutely. Just be smart about it.
Okay, thank you.